Hey everybody, it is Wintermute here, and so I am specifically doing this video before I go see Shang-Chi, because I want to make a prediction about it in general, because I'm seeing a trend in the Marvel Cinematic Universe movie writing, which I'm not happy with, and I don't even know whether they are realizing they're doing it. And that is, I think they're emphasizing furthering the overall MCU storyline rather than taking time to savor the individual elements within each intellectual property within the Marvel Universe. And I think that this started to change the first time I noticed. Now, you can probably go back. Well, let me explain what I mean by that. What I mean by that is, when a writer sits down, they usually have, okay, here's where this book is going to start, here's where it's going to end, and then there's a couple of points that I want to hit between point A and point B. Okay. Now, as the story progresses, as they write organically, like most writers do. I mean, there are some mechanical writers that just, stick to a formula and that's it. But the more organic writers, and usually the better ones, will start writing a book and they'll kind of go, they'll hit a point and they'll be like, you know what, I kind of expected this to happen here, but I don't know, that doesn't feel right anymore. Now that I'm writing, I'm actually putting pen to paper, it doesn't feel right. George R.R. Martin talks about this, about where he kills off some characters. He goes, it just sort of felt right to progress the story, to have impact. It just felt like the right moment. And you know what, I understand that, and I understand that and where that comes from, and I think that's a valid thing to come across. And to put into and to admit to yourself and to put into your writing. And then you have the other aspects of the other end of that is where you have to have X, Y, and Z happen within the story. And so when that happens, you get these clunky, stupid justifications for crazy actions that these characters who are usually established would never do just to get them into this situation. Okay, and I ran into this a lot when I used to write stories for when I was a storyteller, or dungeon master, depending on what system I was running, where I'd have this idea for a great scene in my head. And then I would start kind of flowing into the story, and it kind of made sense, but it was very loose. But then the players and their actions sent them kind of, and they were basically in line, and they were getting to that scene. But by the time they were getting close to that scene, I realized that scene makes no sense. I would have to force them down a path which is logically idiotic to get them to that point, and they will reject that because of it. They will reject what I'm putting out because of that. And so unfortunately, that's kind of where I feel the MCU is headed. It started with WandaVision. For me, that's when I noticed it. And WandaVision started absolutely fantastic. Oh, it was such a out there series. And I could gush on it for a while. I'm not going to go into details, but I really enjoyed WandaVision. But then towards the end, you could tell that, okay, I think an executive told the writers, okay, by the end of I believe it was 6 episodes. By the end of these episodes, Wanda and Vision they have to be at this point. And then here's the stinger we're going to put at the end of that season to kind of set up other events. Now, in theory, none of that's a problem. In theory, that's just fine to have a goal in mind. Otherwise, you get Star Wars episodes 7, 8, 9. But with Marvel, it seems to be like they're emphasizing those goalposts more than taking time to let the plot play out organically. It got really bad when... Now, like I said, WandaVision started out great, and there was so much good about that series. But then the last 2 episodes where you had all these big reveals, it felt like it was too much being revealed all at once. Even though they did set it up and they did savor those moments, this is just the first moment I felt things were going a little awry with the series, and this feels too much too quick. And I think that's... And then you move on to Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I believe was the next series. And again, you could tell, here's the plot beats that the Marvel executives said it has to hit. And rather than giving them a loose kind of bullseye, they said, you better be on target by the end of this episode or by the end of the series, you better be on target here. And again, it's in and of itself isn't a terrible idea, but it seems like they made it too concrete. That instead of treating each individual IP as something that needs to be enjoyed and savored and taken for its own merit, they're using him more and more as just a vehicle to further the plot for the overall MCU. And instead of watching the series and enjoying the series and savoring the series and the character growth and the character development and things like that, it seems like you're just sitting there waiting for the next big reveal. Ooh, here we go. Oh, that guy was behind it the whole time. Oh, okay, great. All right, what's next? What's the next series? Oh, I can't wait for the next series. It's like, well, no, I wanted to take some time and I wanted to enjoy each series a little bit more for its own merit. Now, that doesn't mean that these series suck. Falcon and Winter Soldier had a lot good going on in it. It absolutely did. I think that the overall plot was problematic, and I think it suffered mainly from the point that I'm making here, where it was used more as a vehicle to further the overall plot of the MCU, and that was really the end goal, rather than the end goal being the development of these characters and the roles they take on, and the overall how they grow as a person. And I won't give anything away. I'll try not to give anything away. You know what? No, never mind. Spoilers. I'm just going to say spoilers. I'm going to talk about Loki a little. And so Loki suffers a lot from the same problem. There are absolutely excellent elements in Loki, but really I think in the executive's mind, they were just checking off a box. And I think the writers, when they get this, I think there's still some really great writing and some really great scenes in Loki. WandaVision was great. And I liked, overall, I did like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, even though I think there was a lot of problems with it. It was preachy for one. The morality was really two-dimensional. But overall there were individual scenes of growth, but they did handle some topics that were that were worth tackling within that venue, that they weren't shoehorning them in. It made sense. And a lot of that was the race issue about Falcon taking over the mantle of Captain America and how that might be perceived by some people of color, and the repercussions of that and the history of that. And delving into that in that particular show made sense. And so it wasn't forced. Whereas some shows really force that for no good reason. When it really doesn't need to be there and should not be there. So there's a lot good with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's a lot good with Loki about showing him and growing him as a character, this kind of Loki deviant, or variant, excuse me. But again, it just felt like, okay, well now here's the next big thing. Now it's really about introducing Kang. And I'm starting to get that feeling from What If. And of all the shows that you would think I wouldn't feel that way about, it would be What If. But What If is starting to create its own narrative, which is fine. Having the different episodes actually be interconnected, I think that's fine. And I think episode 4 they really went down a path nobody was expecting with the Doctor Strange storyline. And I'm like, I like this. I like that there are real consequences for some of these actions and how things can go awry. But I think they're using it as a vehicle to explain how the multiverse works and how the multiverse will interact with other aspects of the multiverse. And I'm worried that it will suffer because of that. Now, individually, the individual episodes have been good so far, and I enjoy them, and I think they're fine. But again, at the end of this, I want to feel each episode and the overall What If experience should stand on its own merit from start to finish. It shouldn't be there just to solely exist as another link in the chain propelling the Marvel MCU or MCU forward, the meta plot forward. So that's how I'm starting to feel. It's becoming a little formulaic. And I still think there's good writing, and many of these shows are worth watching. And I could go on for why I enjoyed Loki, and why I enjoyed Falcon and Winter Soldier, and why I enjoyed WandaVision, and why I'm enjoying What If. But I specifically wanted to make this video about before I went and saw Shang-Chi, because I want to see whether my prediction for Shang-Chi is going to be, it's going to fall into this category, and I'm going to feel the same way once I'm finished watching that movie. Because when I pull up YouTube and I'm watching splash videos trying to, you know, say, hey, watch this, there's a couple that are about reviews, and then but most of them are about, oh, the ending explained and how that sets up this villain and this villain and this event, and I'm just like, that's not why I'm going to see this movie. I want to see a character I care about. I want to see an encapsulated plot with threads, connecting it to the rest of the MCU that makes sense and works and does help, slowly move that meta plot forward. But if that's the point of the movie, then it's a failure. Now, I will say, like, I think Marvel's teetering on the brink here, where it's going to go one way or the other. It's just going to become one thing after another. It's just, all right, what's the next thing? All right, we've consumed that. What's the next thing? Okay, we've consumed that. And people just sort of become numb to it. And I think Star Wars was suffering from this too. There was too much Star Wars coming out. People just stopped giving a shit. It was too much. We're glad that you're expanding the universe, but it's just, and that's why I think Solo didn't do well. And I think Marvel can start to suffer from this. It's still riding high on Endgame, and they deserve so much credit for the entire Infinity Saga. And what they are building, overall, they deserve a lot of credit for. As far as I know, nothing like this has ever been done to this magnitude in any cinematic history. This is a real event that we are living through in terms of the way entertainment is handled in a grand scale. And I think that's a good thing. But I think they're about to stumble. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that I go and watch some of their further projects or future projects that are coming down the pike. Slow the pace a little, savor that show, and that show stands on its own feet from start to finish. And I really feel like they're teetering here, that some of these shows, they still have good writing, but they're about to fall. They're about to start falling, and it just becomes, what's the major stinger? What's the big reveal? Just fast forward, get to that, because do I really care about this character's development? No, I'm just here for that credit scene, and that's a shame. That's a shame. But that's my prediction. That's where I think MCU is headed if they're not careful, and that's my biggest worry. So I'm going to go see Shang-Chi probably this afternoon. And I'll probably do a follow-up video just to say whether it fits that mold or stands on its own. Rather than review, there's other people who have done proper reviews of the movie. Go watch them. They're better at that than me. So anyway, this is Winterview signing off for now.